All right, we got another episode of Tailwind. Today we're joined by James Alberson. I said that right, correct?
Hmm.
Should
Yep.
have asked that
Thank
before.
you for not putting a T in
Mistake.
that. Appreciate it.
My sister went to Albertson's University, so I'm glad that I could dodge that this time.
Okay.
James, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'll keep it brief. I've been a Sandler franchise owner for 16 years now, and I'm in the greater Seattle metropolitan area, particular in Renton, Washington, which is the
Mhm.
best city in the whole region. But formerly, about 20 years of sales management, that sort of thing in the medical medical field, medical arena, pharma, biotech devices, equipment, diagnostics, that sort of thing, and
Nice.
then moved into Sandler ownership and been enjoying the ride ever since.
Yeah, 16 good years, I assume.
Well, good is a relative term. I'll tell
Yeah.
anybody when you start your own business, whether you started from scratch or buy a franchise, you never sleep the same when somebody stops sending you a paycheck. So we'll say they haven't beat me. The years haven't beaten me down yet. Let's say that much. But
Well, I'm
everything's good.
early in my new business stage, so I know
Ah,
exactly the feeling that you're talking
I
about.
bet you do. I bet
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. So before we hit the record button, we're talking a little bit about the generational gap in prospecting outreach that, or just prospecting in general that you've noticed. I'd love to just hear a little bit more about what you're seeing at this point in time.
Well, what I'm seeing is probably what a lot of people are seeing and experiencing. And when I say a lot of people, they could be trainers or coaches, but more specifically, sales leaders, managers that may be in the maybe the Gen X generation, as I am, or even the early millennials, and that behavior. What they're seeing is the propensity to avoid the phone like the
Mhm.
plague, to avoid voice to voice contact, even in-face Zoom meeting or Teams meeting and that sort of thing. From the prospecting standpoint, talking to a stranger, why on earth would you do that when I can just so conveniently send an email? I mean, it's so that's less intrusive, or heaven forbid,
Mhm.
text. I mean, I don't hope nobody's prospecting via text, but you never know. So that's what I see is just that reticence to uh, get on the phone, uh, and like I say, create a conversation out of thin air.
Mhm.
That's a big struggle for folks.
Yeah. So when you're addressing that, what are some of the strategies you're applying to get over that reticence that you're running into?
You know, well, part of it is to steal an old Nike phrase, just do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
But overall, part of it's as we talk about with Sandler, the success triangle. Anything you're trying to do, any endeavor you undertake, there's the mindset you bring in into to the matter. There's the behavior that you exhibit. The goals you put in place. How are you structured so that you do this? And then, of course, once you do it, when you execute, there's a technique. How well are you going to do that? And this is an example where all three of those things, truly converge. You have to fight the head trash. The first thing in the mindset, you have
Yeah.
to fight the head trash that you're bothering somebody. When I talk about prospecting and teach prospecting, the first thing is, you put too much pressure on ourselves because you come in trying to create a problem. And I keep it simple. You come in trying to shoot a hole in their boat versus find
Mhm.
a hole in their boat. If you can't find a hole in their boat, then hey, you move on. But if you're trying to shoot a hole in their boat, now that's a lot of pressure. I got to convince them. I got to find a reason. But when I change that paradigm and I just say, hey, listen, I don't know if they need me or not.
Yeah.
Let me just if I have the right 30-second commercial, and if I come across not like this a salesperson, this sales vulture that's trying to convince them by hook or by crook to do this, then everything will be okay. Either I'll start a conversation or I won't. So there's the mindset, the
Mhm.
behavior. I mean, it's simple. You go back to, are you getting ready to get ready, or you just time block? Do you say,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it now? But you can't overshoot the mark. You can't say, okay, I'm going to cold call for 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, unless your boss tells you that's what you're supposed to do. And you probably shouldn't have accepted that job. You can't
Yeah.
do it. But it's like somebody at the beginning of the year saying, you know what, my New Year's resolution, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to the gym every day, Monday through Friday. You're going to go from 0 to 60? No, no, you can't do that. And with prospecting, uh, maybe if you have a problem, then at least, I'm going to start with 2 hours a week, or I'm going to start with, the hour on Monday, hour on Wednesday, but make it reasonable. And so that drives your behavior. And then, really at the center of it, what's your message? What are you going to say?
Mhm.
And practice that and practice and practice so they become second nature and and then go for it. I mean, it's easier said than done, but when you put all those things in place, I think you have a better chance of succeeding than just picking up the phone saying, "Hi, I'm wondering if maybe, if possibly, if you, I wonder if you'd like to talk to me." That's going to go nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when it comes to like the impact difference between, I'm gonna email or text somebody and then picking up the phone, like how are you measuring that? How are you showing that to your clients as they're re working through that to understand that it really is going to make a difference to pick up the phone instead of hide behind an email?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of look at the metrics, and one of the things I've done with a particular client working with, is take a time period of email communication,
Hmm.
and whether it be, okay, 2 weeks or whatever. Okay, how many were exchanged? How many disappeared? How much information did you get during this back and forth? And once again, this is likely something that is uh, not an ongoing customer account management thing, but maybe they followed up on a lead and contacted you. Now you could have called them, or you decide to email them, and now we start this little thing. And how many disappeared? So you get some numbers, right? And then
Yeah.
you ask the question, now, how much of that information do you think you could have gotten in a 5 minute phone call or a
Hmm.
10-minute phone call? As soon as you got the lead, and you use technology, and whether it be Calendly or whatever, there's all kind of ways to schedule, have a scheduler, and you reach out, somebody reaches out, and you have a message. If you're insistent on using email first, then say, hey, I see you're interested. Let me tell you what my process is for those who are interested. Blah, blah. We usually have a brief phone call, maybe 10,
Hmm.
15 minutes. Figure out this and that and the other. If you're open to doing so, here's my link. Schedule some time. We'll do that. That's
Yeah.
if you're insistent on having an email. You know, you don't have to go back to the lab and mix everything up. Have something you can copy and paste and make a minor adjustment or two. But your intent is to talk, and you're telling them you have to talk. I'm
Yeah.
not here to answer all your questions just because you asked. We need to talk. And I always teach my clients, if it's something hard for you to say, then simply blame it on your process. You
Mhm.
know, in my process, this is what I do. Hey, if it were up to me, I'd do something different, but this doggone process
Yeah.
makes me do something. So that's one of the things that I suggest to help, really really map it out, figure out what's going on now, where are the holes, and what would it be like, and then have this easily executable, repeatable action that you can take to drive yourself to a phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's funny, like the more I learn about sales from like, talking to really like accomplished sales leaders and trainers that people don't really know what they're talking about, the more it feels like it's like I feel like I'm like falling back into project management, but with a different intent to some degree, and maybe even not. I mean, that's probably even like wrong to say it. It's like project management, but then it's at a different stage of the customer journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to work in an operations setting, and we would have these emails going back and forth on these complex, technical things we're trying to work. And it was like, hey, if you get to the spot where you send them a second email, skip the second email, you call them because this is going to turn
Hmm.
into either 30 emails and like 3 days of just floundering all over the place, or it's going to be a 5 minute conversation. You're going to get it all done. And then the big thing that happened when we started implementing that as a rule was we started having better relationships with our customers
Right.
because we were building that rapport. And I don't know, do you see that there is like a difference in the rapport building when you're having a phone call versus having these email conversations?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
with one of my current clients, the it's kind of pulling teeth to get one of the individuals to call. But I mean, it didn't take long for her to realize that the kind of conversation she got into, the kind of information that she gleaned from the call, and
Mhm.
nobody yelled at her, nobody put out a hit on her. Everything's just fine. And
Yeah.
so therefore, it's just this scary monster that they're not used to. But yeah, they see that there is a relationship that's built a lot quicker. They get more information, and yeah, it just builds and changes that belief, and that's what we're trying to do. Some of these non-supportive beliefs we have, end up cutting us at the knees in sales. So we have to develop a new belief and act under that belief system instead.
Yeah, I've only been actually seriously cold calling for, let's call it about a year now, maybe a little bit
Mm-hmm.
less.
Mm-hmm.
Before we were kind of hiding behind emails, which
Mm-hmm.
now I look back and I'm just like, I just want to shake myself and be like, you know how much time you wasted hiding behind emails instead of making phone calls? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things that like as I was kind of sitting there and thinking through like, all right, I'm making these phone calls. First of all, everyone seems really receptive these days. I think everyone's
Mm-hmm.
over the emails and the LinkedIn messages. They would rather just pick up the phone, call, and they don't mind chatting for a bit. But I had to change my mindset on. I used to be like, I feel like I'm interrupting them. I'm interrupting
Mm-hmm.
their day. I'm coming into their personal space. I'm kind of like getting in the way. And then I finally came to this realization. I was like, you know what? This is like part of the professional role. Like I'm calling
Mm-hmm.
them in regards to something that's relevant to their day to day. They are open to this. If we were at a networking event and I walked up, introduced myself, shook their hand, that would be no more of a, or no less of an intrusion than me calling them on a phone in a professional setting and having that professional conversation. And that really turned a light bulb for me and being like, hey, like this isn't an intrusion on their day. This is
Mm-hmm.
a, professional conversation. They have every right to say no, thank you, like
Mm-hmm.
immediately into the conversation. That's no big deal. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
reflection on them. It's not a reflection on me. But then being able to pick up the phone after that was just so much easier once I got the head trash out of the way and was able to just be like, hey, I'm just doing my job. They're just doing their job.
Yeah.
There may not be, I might not find the book or the hole. I might find the hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, if they get mad, that's their problem, not yours,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't, you get spam calls or cold calls or whatever all the time, and uh, many times, what irritates me the most is how they start the call.
Yeah.
Hey,
Seriously.
I'll answer the call. Hello, this is James. Yes, may I speak to James? Okay, hold on a second. Were you listening? Or are you
Yeah.
following a script? What's happening here? Or hey, how are you today? You don't care. You don't care. You know
Yeah.
what? My knees hurting me and my back. I'm getting old. Do you really want to know that?
Yeah.
Or do we want to? Do you want to just tell me, hey, listen, I know you weren't expecting me to call, and you can be honest. One of the best ways to open a cold call we teach is, I got to be honest. This is a cold call. It
Mhm.
may or may not be beneficial for you. Can I kind of tell you why I called, and you can determine, should we, is it worth a conversation? It may not be.
Yeah.
That's it. Release the pressure valve,
Cool.
and and I get those calls here and there. I always think, you must be a Sandler client because whatever. And I say, yeah, sure, go for it. I
Mhm.
reward them because they were, as we call it, disarmingly honest. They didn't ask me how my day was. They didn't ask me, did my favorite did my favorite team win the Super Bowl? The Seahawks did win the Super Bowl. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's just, once again, it's how you set the mind, set your own mind as to how are you going to direct that call to the degree that you have control of how they feel, which
Hmm.
you have very little. Well, then, are you going to exacerbate a bad feeling, or are you going to surprise them with something that is just refreshingly original, honest, straightforward, and maybe life is about timing. Maybe you called at the right time with the right thing, in the right moment. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, I will attest to that structure, the opening line structure that you're talking about. I think I've made a couple thousand calls in the last year, easily, maybe more, or not a couple thousand. That's a big range. Anyway, you know,
Fair
I've
enough.
I've had one person get upset with me. I've got
Mm-hmm.
plenty of no thanks and yeah, not right now, and like all that kind of stuff, which is, they're being honest. That's what I'm looking for. And really, if you say, "Hey, do you have a minute?" or however
Mm-hmm.
you want to structure that, and someone says no thanks, that's not negative. That's just a no, they don't. All right,
Yeah.
cool. And it's just
Right.
over. I had one person be like, "How did you find my number? Delete it. Never call me ever again." And it's like, okay, well, if I'm batting one for 1,000, one for 2,000, I think I can wake up confidently every day and go, the likelihood that somebody on the other end of this line is going to be at least polite is enormous. And the fact like
Exactly.
that, the likelihood that somebody is going to be rude if I give them the opportunity to release the pressure valve. Now, on the
Mm-hmm.
flip side, I get phone calls, I get the cold call and somebody just dives into something and they just don't even let me like, what is happening right now? What are you talking about? Somebody told me to go to their website and start looking through their services to decide which ones I wanted. I was like, I'm not engaging with this. Like, this is
Exactly.
crazy right
Like, what are
now.
you talking about? I mean, you haven't
Yeah.
given me a reason to do so. You haven't earned the right to ask that, is
Yeah.
what I was saying. For that person who got mad, how did you get my number and that sort of thing? I have one piece of advice. Don't answer the phone unless you know who's calling you. How's that? How is
Yeah.
that? Since you clearly don't like strangers calling you, you know what? If they're not in your contacts, just let it ring. Listen to the voicemail. It'll
Yeah.
save them. It'll lower their blood pressure. You know.
Oh. I mean, anytime I pick up a phone number I don't know, I'm like, there's a 95% chance this is somebody I don't know who is cold calling me. But I'm like, you know what? I'm in the game, they're in the game. Let's see what's going on. And maybe there is a good opportunity here. And it is just like a timing thing. And so, like,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a Sandler colleague I have. He's up in Canada. He has in his office. He has people have the no soliciting signs. He just says no bad soliciting. Which is good. And it's no bad cold calling, but you can I'll accept a decent reach out if you do it well. But once again, it goes full circle to the kind of pressure you're putting on yourself to pick up the phone and what you're going to say when you call. You're defeating yourself half the time. With the mindset that I'm going to be interrupting and oh, this is going to go terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, so with this, I mean, I totally agree with the power of the phone in prospecting. I think it has to be a centerpiece. It's funny because like at the very beginning of my career, I worked a couple of jobs where I was a salesperson, but I was untrained. I didn't really know what I was doing, but there was an
Mm-hmm.
expectation that I was making cold calls.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually selling stuff. Like probably could have done a lot better if I actually had some good training and guidance, maybe the other person in my life helping me, but I
Right.
didn't,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I go into operations for a while, I come back, I try to start selling again for, my own business, and I'm hiding from the phone. And I'm like, why isn't this working? I feel like I've gotten smarter over the years. And I finally pick up the phone and everything changes. So like total belief that like the phone is gonna make a huge foundational piece. And that being
Mm-hmm.
said, what are your thoughts on other types of prospecting? What else could you build into your outreach? Or do you think is it pure just phone only and nothing else?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that question. We say in Sandler's, strive for five to thrive, basically.
Mhm.
Five, in general, five separate and distinct prospecting avenues to pursue for several reasons. A, to break up the monotony. But B, I mean, you're not going to necessarily reach everybody, by phone or just through one method. So, if most of your opportunities are really built through cold prospecting, then yeah, the phone sure is one of them. Um, what kind of networking opportunities do you have? And they come in all kind of shapes, forms, and sizes. There's structured, there's unstructured, but maybe there's that aspect of it that breaks things up. Um, you know, the we talk about cold prospecting, but one of the things I always tell my clients is you know, um, what do I call them? We call them resurrection calls, or recapture calls. How much are you reaching out to past clients or even past prospects where it didn't work out, that's a little quote unquote warmer. I mean, once again, life is about timing. Maybe it did, maybe the timing wasn't there, but do you have built into your schedule the time that you reach out to folks that maybe said no before, or clients that you work with for a little while and then maybe that engagement ended, but there's another way to do that. For some industries, how are you positioning yourself as a quote unquote expert, through speaking opportunities? It doesn't have to be some keynote for a 5,000 person crowd. There are organizations and associations all over the place. If you just, quite frankly, go to the web, or I don't know, ChatGPT or Claude, and say, hey, what are the associations in my state or in my city? And then here's the thing: people don't do this. Cold call the associations
Yeah.
for speaking opportunities, because they're always, and a lot of them are always looking for ways to bring value to their membership. And so now you show up, subject matter expert. I'm telling you, because I've done this. The reception. You don't feel so bad because you're not trying to sell anything.
Right.
But the reception is tremendous, and now you get a chance to do some speaking obligations, and we call them free talks, and whether you get paid for it or not. And all of a sudden, at the end of the talk, somebody says, hey, listen, can I
Yeah.
talk to you more, because you said something that makes me think it's worth the conversation. So, I know I said strive for five to thrive, but I mean, those are four right there that come to
Well,
mind, and certainly a strategic way of using LinkedIn
yeah.
and connecting with folks there. You can throw that in as a fifth one. So people just aren't as probably aren't as creative or thinking outside the box, if you will, as they should.
Mhm.
But I think once you do, some things actually come to mind for you that can work pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, one of my five is cold calling people to see if they'd be happy to share their expertise on a podcast. And by doing that, I got to have a great conversation with you, which is like,
There
it's a
you go.
super fun one. I'm still cold calling direct to customers and not
Uh
creating,
huh.
great content because I get to lean on experts. But
Hmm.
at the same time, like one of my five is, hey, let me get smart people to help me learn more, put together some cool clips, put them on LinkedIn, get some conversations out of that. I mean, it can be really eye-opening if you really like start like playing with the edges and seeing what are some other ways that I can get out there and start conversations beyond just picking up the phone,
Right. Right.
including
Well,
picking up the phone to
hopefully.
start those.
Uh-huh. Well, hopefully your strategy will work well with having me come on and give you some sort of I don't know, whatever benefit you're looking for.
Yeah.
But in the end, but like you say, that is a strategy once again that's creative, and hopefully somebody watching this will think, hold on a second, can I incorporate podcast in my somehow, some way? I don't know. You just never know.
Podcasting, or maybe it's blogging or guest writing or something. I think there's plenty of things out there where it can be. I would still say always go back to the phone and be using it because it's so
Hmm.
powerful. But there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Real quick, I don't want to go too over upfront contract because we are
Sure.
past the half-hour mark. But
Hmm.
any other parting thoughts or something to summarize kind of the conversation that you want to leave an impact with people as they finish up this podcast episode?
Um, the only thing that comes to mind for me, I guess if I thought about it, I can have a few things, but I'll stick to this. We say in Sandler, it's unethical to sell something to somebody that they don't need, but it's equally unethical to not sell something to somebody that they do need. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to prospecting, who are you not contacting out there that may actually need what you do?
Yeah.
And that sums it up. That's another mindset to
Mhm.
say, I don't know if this person does or not, but I'm about to find out to see if I can put them in one bucket or the other. And
Yeah.
boom, there you go.
I never thought of it that way, but I really like that a lot. James, I
Cool.
appreciate it. Hey, pleasure talking to you. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.